Hey, everybody. I know we didn't get a chance to meet Monday, so I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk a little bit about why I've been doing classroom observations and why I want to continue doing that for the next several weeks, or actually from here forward. And what I'm looking for when I come is one of the things they told us when they gave us our feedback is, as you know, we need to start developing more year-long PBLs, which is what they call them. So I'm going to start calling them that too. Year-long project-based learning, and look for more day-to-day interdisciplinary connections. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, and maybe identify some ways we can do that. Identify some of the ways I kind of saw last week, and also maybe give some advice for, like, as we go forward doing this, ways to think about it that will help us and make it more clear to each other and to the kids. I will say one thing I noticed going in classrooms is several of you have like an interdisciplinary section on your agenda for the day, and that's awesome. That's good to help the kids like identify what they're learning in class and how that connects. We just want to do things like this more often. We want to update those things more often, and when it happens, point to them. I know the space race and all this, probably this is all tied to your SpaceX bottle rocket unit, but the idea would be to do something more like this each week for our standards and what we're learning in class. It would also be really beneficial and look really good if not only did we list it here, but like if we have a standard posted, say for science, if you had a standard posted here, you also had, say, the math standard like listed right here also. You could point to the kids and say, look, we're doing science and math in class today. And just some of the ideas I saw while I was in your classrooms. Mobley, you were doing Amplify, which is difficult to always find those connections because Amplify is very, very scripted. However, you all were talking about Aztec chocolate, which I am going to make some of that. I'm going to make it next week. You were making Aztec chocolate, which is a great connection to social studies. And what I want everybody to realize, they studied the Aztecs a few units ago. It does not have to be synchronous to what you're learning right now to count as a connection. Even though they did Aztecs months ago, you could still bring that standard up when you're talking. It can be a standard that's already been taught before. It doesn't have to be what they're doing like this week or last week. So you have all of everybody's standards available to you. Miss Dawsey, I like to see that you had that interdisciplinary connection section on your board. These right here, I thought would be like a good thing to discuss in our Monday meeting. Say, hey, in social studies this week, we're learning this. In science, we're learning this. Be specific. Don't just give a general topic. Give maybe what are your learning targets for the week? And when somebody lists theirs off, think about your content and what you've taught already and see if there's a possible connection that person can make to something you've taught already. I don't see this taking forever, but it's a good way for us to kind of structure how we could kind of flesh out these parts of our agenda each day. Again, it doesn't have to line up perfectly to your curriculum map. So say we add that to our agendas on Mondays as we're going through, hey, in language arts, our learning targets this week are A, B, C, and D. In science, our learning targets are A, B, C, and D. When people are listing those, think back to things you've taught already. What are some ways you could possibly connect to things you've taught already or what you're teaching right now? A good example was in Miss Fielding's class. I saw you all were working on order of operations in PEMDAS. Just thinking, like, I could see something like a word problem where you're using the order of operations and the layers of Earth's atmosphere. So you could say, a rocket traveled through all of the Earth's atmospheres, or traveled through, I don't know, the asthenosphere 3 times. It traveled to outer space 1 time. And kids would have to like set up a word problem based on their knowledge of how much distance those different layers of atmosphere are, and use the order of operations to figure it out. I could talk more at length at that later, but like when you're doing like a word problem, or you're doing some of the order of operations, or using math, word problems are a great opportunity to just use some of the language or the topics that they're using in the other classes to form that word problem around. And it wouldn't be terribly difficult to do. And I would be more than happy to help with that if you ever wanted help with that. And finally, Coach Bringer, I know you were working in economics. I wanted to say, anytime you are working in economics, that is the time to have students use the science and engineering practice of analyzing and interpreting data. You can go on CIA World Factbook and find all kinds of data charts about standard of living and literacy rate and GDP, and you could generate some questions. You could generate some questions around that. Anytime you do that, they're working on a science and engineering practice. But it's not just enough to have them do that. Go over to that poster in your room, and when y'all are doing that, say, hey guys, when we're talking about economics, we're using a science and engineering practice. We're analyzing and interpreting data, and that's what we're going to be doing today. This is something economists do all the time. Economists are scientists, by the way. Another connection I saw was math just finished doing unit rates. Y'all are talking in social studies about literacy, calculating literacy rate, standard of living, and per capita GDP. Y'all are doing unit rates in social studies, and they just finished unit rates in math. That would be a cool opportunity to give them some kind of problem. Maybe even in social studies class where they're having to calculate unit rates, but using the same language and the same format Ms. Fielding is using in her math class. Again, these are just some examples of some ways we could connect, but I really want to make this a part of what we do, like a part of our conversation each week, and just find more of these connections on a day-to-day basis. I think that would really help find those connections between classes. The kids would be able to talk about interdisciplinary learning a lot more. And I think the more we did it, the better we'd get at it. Anyway, hopefully this format of the video helps. You can watch it at your leisure. But if y'all want to talk about any of this Monday or want to talk to me about it before then, by all means, please do. All right, you guys have a great day.